They're not.
Good evening. Welcome to Election 2022, a WEBN Political Pulse live election night special. I'm Sam DeCoste.
And I'm Faith Pinto. Tonight you will hear from correspondents on the House, Senate, and gubernatorial races. We also have live reporters at Maura Healey and Jeff Deal's parties. We go first to Peyton Cavanaugh, who joins us live from gubernatorial candidate Maura Healey's election night party at the Fairmont Copley Plaza. Peyton spoke with Healey on the campaign trail earlier this week. Peyton, what do you have for us?
Welcome back. I'm now joined by Spencer Kimball, the head of Emerson Polling.
We're here at the Fairmont Copley Plaza for Healey and Driscoll's campaign party for the election. We're very excited. People are piling into the room. Supporters are very excited to hear them speak. Healey is keeping a focus on getting the community to the polls, thanking supporters, thanking volunteers for all of their hard work. Wu has tweeted how her support with a phrase saying, "We are ready," with a photo of her and Maura Healey on her Twitter. Everybody's very excited. We're all very excited. I'm Peyton Cavanaugh for WEBN.
Maura Healey continues on the campaign trail for governor of Massachusetts. Healey's grassroots movement, bringing together community and bringing a friendly face to office. Healey and Driscoll are here at Mike's Pastries in the North End, handing out cannolis to bring together the community.
Tax attorney and community member of Braintree, John C. Mulaney, came out to Mike's for some pastries and was pleasantly met with Healey and her team.
I think she is making such a difference. She has a village of ideas. And the number one reason I'm supporting her, I think she's probably the most important, most honest politician in Massachusetts. People want to know who their representative is going to be, and they know who she is. And she's the most incredible woman I have ever met in my life.
Healey spoke to the importance of immersing yourself within the communities you serve and how that is one of the forefronts of her administration.
This is how you get a pulse on what you need to do in government. It's the way I've operated as Attorney General, and certainly the way that a Healey-Driscoll administration will operate. You saw us today asking a lot of questions, talking about supply chain, talking about workforce issues, talking about some of the challenges that these businesses are facing right now. And that will help us better think about the things that we can and must do to support our businesses, to support our residents, and support our wonderful communities across the state.
From Boston, I'm Peyton Cavanaugh, WEBN.
Next time we come into sale in Q1.
Katie, good evening. What do you have for us tonight?
Hey, we're working this out. End of the day, we still got something up. Let's just try.
So, if you're just joining us, we are here at WEBN's live midterm election special for 2022. We do have correspondents at the Boston Harbor Hotel for Jeff Deal's party and for Maura Healey's party. It's going to be interesting night to watch the governor race in Massachusetts unfold tonight.
Correct. That's going to be a huge historical election. You have what could be the first female governor, elected to the state of Massachusetts.
Yes, and we are waiting to know. The polls have closed in Massachusetts as of a few moments ago. Polls closing at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Now, we do know that for the governor of Massachusetts race, we could have the first ever openly gay governor of Massachusetts as well if Maura Healey is elected tonight.
Correct, both in Oregon and in Massachusetts. So this could be huge. Let's see what Katie has for us. Katie, are you ready for us? How's it going over there? Hi, Katie. How's it going over at Deal's?
We're here at Jeff Deal's election night party where Rick Green just said that they are not yet accepting the results of the election that AP just announced. AP just announced that Maura Healey is the next governor of Massachusetts, but the Deal party is not accepting that. So this week, Deal and the Republican Party of Massachusetts. So you're going to hear a little bit more about that right now. From Boston Harbor Hotel, I'm Katie Delaney, WEBN News.
In a state known for its moderate
governors like Turley Baker and Bill Weld, Massachusetts Republican governor candidate Jeff Deal, a Trump-backed conservative, has gone against the grain with his candidacy. As governor, Jeff Deal says he would make the economy one of his priorities. This includes enacting tax cuts, creating new jobs, and supporting businesses.
We're going to make this state affordable and a prosperous state for everybody to come to. We're going to bring businesses back. We can't keep driving out businesses out of Massachusetts.
Deal also supports ending all COVID vaccine and mask mandates. He's spoken out against the firing of state workers for refusing vaccines, which Governor Baker enacted.
Every single one of those workers that work for the state should be getting their jobs back.
Deal is also pushing for parents to have more of a say when it comes to their kids' education and medical care. Richard Parr, senior research director with the Mass Inc. polling group, says that Deal's conservative campaign is causing him to fall behind in the polls. The group's most recent poll found that 53% of voters supported Healy and 23% Deal.
You can't really be successful as a Republican candidate statewide unless you're getting some Democrats to come over and pull the lever for you.
Governor Baker, as a moderate Republican, has high favorability from both parties, 71% of Democrats and 58% of Republicans.
So Jeff Deal is not getting those sorts of numbers.
Parr said that the Republican Party in Massachusetts has moved far to the right in recent years, so Deal is doing well with Republicans in the state, but without much support from Democrats, it may not be enough to win the race. Deal and his supporters are still confident that he'll win the election, getting some conservative representation in an overwhelmingly blue state. From the State House, I'm Katie Delaney, WEBN News.
If elected, Maura Healey will become the first openly gay governor of Massachusetts, as Sam pointed out earlier. Andrea Campbell could become the first Black woman attorney general. This week, I had the opportunity to explore the historic nature of this election.
Never before has Massachusetts had the opportunity to elect an all-female state executive office. The 2022 midterms bring with it the chance for the Commonwealth to elect their first female governor, joined by a female lieutenant governor, attorney general, state treasurer, and state auditor. This all-female executive office could be the first in the country, a likely bid as Election Day draws to a close with gubernatorial candidate Maura Healey and her running mate Kim Driscoll leading in the polls. There's a lot on the line for voters, and this election has the power to send an important message to the future generations of Massachusetts.
The message today, kids, is you can be anything that you want to be.
Massachusetts ranks just 24th in the country for women in state legislature. Only 50 out of 200 state legislators are women, and just 3 seats in the House of Representatives are filled by women. According to Kat Klein of the Massachusetts Women's Political Caucus, representation is critical, not just for inspiring future generations of leaders, but for encouraging women to take political action at their state and local levels.
It's important that folks are able to see themselves in those positions. So seeing women as the governor, having a first Black woman elected statewide, sets a precedent and a visibility that lets more folks see themselves in public office.
During one of her last campaigning efforts in Boston, Maura Healey emphasized once again the important influence this election could have on women across the country.
At the end of the day, we're going to have better laws and policies when those in office, just like those in boardrooms, reflect the diversity of the populations that they serve or work on behalf of. And, that's just something that studies show.
With election night now upon us, all eyes are on Massachusetts as we wait to find out the results of the historic 2022 midterms. For WEBN, from Boston, I'm Faith Pinot.
When we come back, hear from our Senate and gubernatorial correspondents.
And learn about question 1 on the Massachusetts ballot. Stay tuned.
Do you love sports? Then you should know about STEM. Because maximizing nutrition, analyzing peak muscle performance, calculating the perfect shot, and more are all made possible by science, technology, engineering, and math. In fact, there are more careers than ever in sports science. So if you have a passion for sports, then think about getting involved in STEM and improve everyone's game on and off the field. Get inspired at shecanstem.com.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt. I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
I'm on Drew spot on this last one. There it is. Keep going with it. Leo.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
Welcome back to Election 2022. We're going to check in on some key elections in battleground states, beginning with JL Beto, who has the latest on select Senate races. JL, good evening. What do you have for us?
Thank you, Sam. Republicans only need to net one seat to win control of the chamber, and polls show many key races are neck and neck. We are looking at 5 main races tonight to see who will take the Senate majority. The list includes Arizona, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Georgia. Georgia has the closest Senate race in the country and could be headed for a runoff election. Meanwhile, Nevada is one of the most competitive states, with the GOP looking to flip both House and Senate. The Pennsylvania Senate race is still too early to call. 5% of expected votes are currently in. Democrat John Fetterman is in the lead with 84.6% of the vote. Precincts covering Philadelphia and Pittsburgh are in, leaving more rural areas to still report their numbers. Exit polls show that Black and Latino voters heavily leaning blue, while white voters are split. I'll be watching Senate races in battleground states all night. Back to you at the desk.
Massachusetts voters answered 4 questions on the ballot. Earlier this week, I attended a rally in Roxbury for questions 1 and 4. Candidates and community members rallied together to encourage voters to vote yes on question 1.
It is high time that millionaires pay their fair share.
Voters in Roxbury saying yes on 1. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley endorsing question 1 on the Massachusetts state ballot at a rally in Roxbury.
Question 1 actually helps for future investment so that we can keep our economy running in the right way.
Question 1 would increase taxes by 4% on all Massachusetts citizens who earn more than $1 million in personal income. As it stands, Massachusetts charges the same 5% rate for all income levels. It's being coined as the millionaire's tax.
If you're making over $1 million a year, we're asking people to pay their fair share.
If it passes, lawmakers say the money from the tax increase would go towards education and transportation. Speakers and voters at the rally saying the law would allow for investments which have been long overdue.
And public education and public transit are our 2 most important infrastructures.
The law would apply to less than 1% of homeowners in Massachusetts, but voters in Roxbury saying it's time for the top 1% to pay their fair share.
So yes on 1 is a yes for equity, for fairness, and justice.
Gubernatorial races are heating up across the country. That was a great package, Sam. Speaking of the question 1 and question 4, where did the candidates in Massachusetts stand on those?
So Maura Healey was there with Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley and former Boston City Councilor Andrea Campbell, who was also running for Attorney General as well. And so they're all in favor of yes on 1 and yes on 4. They talked about both. There were plenty of coalitions there speaking on behalf of why they should vote yes on both. But the millionaire's tax is what question 1 is being coined as. 58% of mass voters going into tonight are in support of that, including all 3 candidates that spoke at the rally. And question 4 also wildly popular. So it was was a rally to get a chance for voters to say yes on both those questions.
Definitely a hot ticket on the ballot. Now we go to correspondent Meg Richard. She has more for us. Meg, what is new? All right. Well, while we're waiting to talk to Meg, let's.
Okay. Go. Hello. Thank you so much. According to a report by Tufts University Center for Information and Research on Civic Learning and Engagement, 50% of young people voted in the 2020 presidential election. This year's midterms follow an 11-point increase in youth electoral participation from 2016 to 2020. Back to you at the desk.
All right, welcome back. Faith, let's discuss more about the gubernatorial races, beginning the one in Arizona. We will have the first ever, we'll have the 5th female governor of Arizona. It's the most that any state's had in the country.
Correct. That's going to be huge. And we honestly won't probably find out these results tonight. Arizona is one of those states where a lot of Democratic voters mailed in their ballots or did ballot drop boxes. And those results will not be able to be processed until the polls close, most likely. And then a lot of Republican voters did vote in person. We won't have a lot of results. And additionally, as we know, Maricopa County is always a highly contested area for voters. So, that's going to be something we're closely watching. It's a very tight race in Arizona.
We monitored that very closely a few years ago. And in Arizona, you have the Democratic candidate Katie Hobbs going up against Republican candidate Kari Lake, the former TV news anchor, who really has been running her campaign off of the narrative that President Trump lost the presidential election 2 years ago on voter fraud. We'll be interested to see how that pans out, Faith.
Correct. And speaking of polls closing, polls have closed in many states, actually. But yeah, another race we probably won't find out about, honestly, is Georgia, which we were talking about before. So we're really going to have to watch that closely.
The midterm elections this year are guaranteed to shape the House, the Senate, and the state governments. Here in Boston, we're seeing as many students in this highly populated college town are taking to the polls either by mail or through their ballots on election day. Did you vote in the midterm elections?
Not this time around.
Yes. Honestly, I'm just too lazy. I'm from New Jersey, but I feel like I don't really know that much about the politics going on there right now. And I'm also not fully a Mass resident. Plus, both states I live in are pretty solidly blue, so I feel like wouldn't make a difference.
I don't know. I kind of lost all faith in. I haven't lost all faith in the government, but I would say, I don't know. I voted in the last one, and I feel like there's not been a lot of change that has come, through that.
I think it's important to make your voice heard, and make sure that people of all different backgrounds are getting represented in government.
Students here in Boston represent states nationwide, and their vote really matters and will shape this election all across the country and the results that we'll see tonight.
Honestly, I think it depends a lot on where you live. If you're from a swing state, it's probably a lot more important to vote. I do think more young people should vote, which is why I kind of feel bad for not voting.
One of the most important aspect, I think the student is one of the most important aspect when it comes to voting and elections.
I feel like our age group talks a lot about politics these days, but doesn't always take it to the polls.
I think if you can request a mail-in ballot, it's a pretty easy process, so I recommend doing that because I know it's hard to get to the polls on voting day. So I recommend just looking out for those kind of opportunities and making sure you get your vote out.
From Boston, for WEBN, I'm Manny.
Welcome back. I'm now joined by Spencer Kimball, the head of Emerson Polling. Spencer, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, it's a historic night for Massachusetts and for the country. AP and the Times have both called the election in favor of Healy, making her the first elected lesbian governor in the country and the first elected female governor in Massachusetts. Everybody is so excited for them to get here. The crowd is piling in. We're all very excited to hear them speak. For WEBN, I'm Hayden Kavanaugh.
Welcome back. I'm now joined by Spencer Kimball.
will be the next governor of Massachusetts, but the people here tonight are not going to be accepting that. We had people cheering, "Deal's the real deal," people all over not believing that that is going to be the result. Rick Green, a Republican donor and supporter, spoke saying that they won't accept this announcement and that people are still waiting to cast their votes for Deal, and that these projections are nothing more than the projections of the mainstream media. Now, people here feel the same way. They're still hopeful that Deal can pull through in this race. From the Boston Harbor Hotel, Katie Delaney, WEBN News.
Thank you, Katie, for the update. Thank you so much. We're heading to a quick commercial break, but don't go anywhere. We have more election coverage for you after this.
Do you love sports? Then you should know about STEM. Because maximizing nutrition, analyzing peak muscle performance, calculating the perfect shot, and more are all made possible by science, technology, engineering, and math. In fact, there are more careers than ever in sports science. So if you have a passion for sports, then think about getting involved in STEM and improve everyone's game on and off the field. Get inspired at shecanstem.com.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
Come on, Drew, spot on this last one. There it is. Keep going with it. Leo.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
Welcome back to WEBN's Election 2022. Polls have closed in many states and the counting of votes has begun. We now go to our congressional correspondent, Aaron Palacios, for an update. All right, this is a very interesting Congress in general, but this election specifically for the House and for the Senate. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on in Georgia for the Senate races with Warnock and Herschel. I think that is an incredibly important race, and it's something that's really tight, and it might end up going into a runoff.
And if it goes into a runoff, then we could see more campaigning for even longer time. We could have 4 more weeks until a potential runoff, which would happen in December. But you have Raphael Warnock, the incumbent, going up against NFL legend and University of Georgia former running back Herschel Walker. That's going to be a really contentious matchup to watch as we go along in the Senate race.
Correct. Something that's been a huge talking point, which I know we're going to touch on more, is abortion. But right now, we're going to go to our congressional correspondent. Aaron, good evening. What do you have for us?
Many polling locations have just closed, making it too early to call races. Republicans are forecasted to win the House majority. 5 of the Battleground House districts we are focusing on tonight are North Carolina's 13th district between Democrat Wiley Nickel and Republican Bo Hines. Nickel is forecasted to lead. Up next is Pennsylvania's 8th district between Democrat Matt Cartwright and Republican Jim Bognett. There are 2 candidates who share similar values but differ in party. New Hampshire's 1st district with Democrat Chris Pappas and Republican Caroline Leavitt. This is a tight race and Pappas' 3rd term running for Congress. Let's also look at New York's 17th district between Sean Maloney and Republican Mike Lawler, where Lawler is projected to pull ahead by the slightest of votes. And finally, Connecticut's 5th district between Democrat Johanna Hayes and Republican George Logan, with Hayes expected to pull forward in the tight race. That is only 5 of the 435 House seats that are up for grabs. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks so much, Aaron. All right, stay tuned. WEBN Election 2022. We'll be right back after this.
Do you love sports? Then you should know about STEM. Because maximizing nutrition, analyzing peak muscle performance, calculating the perfect shot, and more are all made possible by science, technology, engineering, and math. In fact, there are more careers than ever in sports science. So if you have a passion for sports, then think about getting involved in STEM and improve everyone's game on and off the field. Get inspired at shecanstem.com.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to bed.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
Come on, Drew, spotlight on this last one. There it is. Keep going with it. Leo.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
Welcome back. I'm now joined by Spencer Kimball, the head of Emerson Polling. Spencer, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Spencer, let's discuss the battleground states that are going to define this year's midterm elections, beginning with Arizona. What are the numbers telling us about the governor and senator races in Arizona so far?
Well, Arizona is an interesting race because you have on the governor's side an incumbent, Doug Ducey, who's not running for re-election because he's term limited. So there's a Republican, Carrie Lake, who's running against a Democrat, Katie Hobbs. And right now, Carrie Lake's got a slight advantage in that race. But on the Senate side, you have an incumbent, Mark Kelly, the Democrat, running against Blake Masters, the Republican. And there, the incumbent, Kelly, has a slight advantage. And so we see a lot of ticket splitting in Arizona. That's going to be a real battleground on November 8th.
Let's move on to Georgia now. What are the numbers telling us about how Georgia is shaping up?
Well, Georgia is an interesting state as well because we have the governor's race and the Senate race. And here again, we see the incumbent governor. This time it's Brian Kemp, who's running for re-election. He's the guy who is against Trump. Trump tried to run a candidate in the primary to beat him, and Kemp beat him by 50 points. So there's a lot of back and forth going on. Right now, he's running against a woman named Stacey Abrams. And Stacey Abrams is the face of the Democratic Party from like 2018, losing a very close election, but this time she seems to have fallen further behind. So last time she lost by about a point or two. Now she trails in the polls by about 5 or 6 points. On the flip side, we have the Senate race, and we have Herschel Walker running against incumbent Raphael Warnock. And this is a very tight race where we've had Walker ahead, and now we've had Warnock ahead. Now, the key here in Georgia is that it's a 50% threshold state, which means that there's like 5 candidates running for this Senate seat. Most of them are going to get less than a point. But if neither of the candidate gets to 50%, we get a runoff. And in that case, it'll be December 6th. So we might come back to Georgia and have a chance to talk about that one again.
Georgia's going to be a very key state to keep an eye on for the results. Now, how about New Hampshire? What are the numbers saying about New Hampshire so far?
Well, New Hampshire was a state where Maggie Hassan was considered the Democrat in a safer seat. Our early polling and most of the early polling had her up by 6-7 points. But then over the last couple of weeks, it's really tightened with the Republican candidate, Don Bolduc, a former or a retired Army general who is now running in a competitive Republican primary. That lead has dissipated to 3, maybe even tied right now. So a lot of people are watching that. But again, in New Hampshire, you have a governor's race where the Republican Sununu is probably up by double digits. So we're looking again at a lot of ticket splitting. Remember, we talked about Arizona splitting their vote. We're looking at Georgia splitting their vote with the Republican governor, Democratic Senate. And here in New Hampshire, we've got the same Republican governor and potentially the Democrat in the Senate.
Last but not least, for battleground states, Pennsylvania. What do we know about Pennsylvania right now?
Well, Pennsylvania is the battleground where it seems to always fall 1 point on either side. Now, in the governor's race, Josh Shapiro, the Democrat, has held a pretty steady lead throughout the race, 8 to 12 points. We're kind of on the lighter side with Josh Shapiro against Doug Mastriano, the Republican nominee. But in the Senate race, again, we've got the ticket splitting. It looks like a toss-up between John Fetterman and Mehmet Oz. And right now, we'll have to see what happens. But that's a race that is going to be very competitive.
And that one should come down to the wire when it comes to how results come in. So what are battleground states showing us about in terms of what are the top issues that voters are caring about? What are the polls saying are the top issues that voters are invested in for this election cycle?
Well, the top issue overall is the economy. We ask this in every state, and generally it's between 38 and now up to 50% of voters say that's my top issue. And that's what's keeping the Republicans in challenging a lot of the Democrats, because voters see the Republicans better at handling the economy as a generic issue than they see the Democrats. On the flip side, the Democrats have been really talking about threats to democracy and abortion access, and maybe almost to their detriment, not enough about healthcare, in my opinion. If you remember 2018, they really ran on a healthcare platform and were quite successful. That has been kind of muddled by the abortion access issue. And then we have a new issue that we really didn't talk about 5 years ago, threats to democracy. That's something that the Democrats have talked about since essentially January 6th and has grown, but it's kind of plateaued. And so those are what the candidates are talking about. Republicans pivot a little bit more into immigration and crime as their secondary issue from the economy. And then the Democrats will pivot a little bit into the environment as well as a secondary issue.
So it's safe to say that in this year's election, January 6th, the events that happened on that day and the overturning of Roe v. Wade had a huge impact on this year's election and what voters are thinking. Is that right?
Well, those do have impacts, but I think the economy and the increase of gas costs and the increase of just day-to-day living has really impacted folks, because in the debates, the candidates are talking about like grocery store tax holidays. So they're talking about policies that are helping out people's day-to-day activities. And it suggests that, the economy is really the engine that's driving this election.
All right. Well, that's Spencer Kimball, the head of Emerson Polling. Thank you so much again for joining us. Always a pleasure discussing with you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We'll be right back. Stay tuned for more election coverage.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, "Read your lease. No pets allowed." My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
You can achieve a lot using your imagination. I mean, I don't like to brag, but wait, who's that? And why is she all over these achievement awards? But with STEM, the sky's the limit. Boom! Use STEM to envision. Okay, I'm seeing it. Yeah. Invent.
Got any ideas?
I've got a few, actually. And create a better world.
Told you she's super smart.
If she can STEM, so can you. Find out more at She Can STEM.
Honorary Forest Ranger Betty White here, lending a hand to my dear friend Smokey Bear. Because for 75 years, he's only said,
"Only you can prevent wildfires."
But there's a lot more to say. Like if you park your car on tall, dry grass, the hot exhaust pipe can start a wildfire. So keep the animals safe, especially the cute shirtless one. Go to smokeybear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Hey, did you know 2.4 million loving cats and dogs in shelters and rescues need our help to find a home? Let's go to the shelterpetproject.org and meet a few who are in a shelter near you. Harlow, oh, she's one great listener and loves to hear all your stories. My kind of cat. Cerulo is a sweet, goofy boy who's eager to please. Sounds just like another dog I know. So go to the shelterpetproject.org, search your local shelters and rescues, and go for a cuddle with your next best friend. Adopt.
Welcome back to Election 2022. If you're just joining us, I'm Faith Pitto.
And I'm Sam DeCoste, and we are going live to
all here tonight. It is still early, and we're still waiting for many of the results to come in. But it's not too early to say thank you. Thank you for all that you have done to get us to this point and lift up this historic slate of candidates we are looking to celebrate today. Every door you knocked, every call you made, every text message you sent, and got back an annoying, I already voted, go away, got us to this point. So thank you. Thank you for supporting Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. Thank you for supporting Laura Healy. And the entire local Democratic slate. Our nominees have left it all out there. And so I just want to give them a round of applause for running and their campaign teams. A round of applause for all of them supporting. Now we're waiting for some big results tonight. We're looking forward to hearing how all of these races will turn out. We need it. Our communities need it. Our country needs it. I'm not gonna lie, I woke up pretty anxious this morning. Just kind of a pit in my stomach, and I'm still very worried. Thinking about Arizona, New Hampshire, and a whole lot of places in between. And in a moment when states across the country are fighting to hold on to reproductive rights, free and fair elections,
Okay. Welcome back. My name is Meg Richards, and I am your gubernatorial correspondent. We just heard from Mayor Michelle Wu, Mayor of Boston, at Maura Healey's party. An exciting night for Maura Healey, as she just won the governor's seat in Massachusetts. We're now going to look at the governor's race in Arizona, where polls are closing in mere minutes. In Arizona, we have Democrat Katie Hobbs, who is facing off Republican challenger Kari Lake. Kari Lake was a former news anchor, and Katie Hobbs is currently Secretary of State. Katie Hobbs was the one that led the efforts in Biden's victory in Arizona in 2020, where he won by 0.3 percentage points. Katie Hobbs refused to face Carrie Lake in a televised gubernatorial debate, saying that she did not want to give a platform to Carrie Lake's rhetoric, such as her election denial, and saying that the election was fraudulent. We're going to go back to you at the desk. Thank you.
Keep your face. Listen, I think we're going to go and we're going to head over and check in with Katie at the Deal Party. As we just saw Michelle Wu, I think, was basically saying that we're not exactly calling the race, the gubernatorial race in Massachusetts, for Maura Healey, and we're still waiting for results to be finalized. Let's see if we can chat with Katie about what's going on at the Boston Harbor Hotel.
30%. Leah Allen, the candidate for lieutenant governor, is also here right now. She's talking to supporters. She has yet to make a speech, but we'll be waiting for that soon. Jeff Deal has also not yet made an appearance. Republican Attorney General candidate Jay McMahon is also here. It's looking like he may lose the election. Andrea Campbell is now at 65% of votes and McMahon at 34%. The race has not been called yet, but he is lower in the votes. Now, people are happy about other races being projected now as well. Ron DeSantis projected to win governor of Florida. People here are excited, still holding on to hope, waiting for all of those votes to come in. Rick Green, a volunteer and a supporter, spoke earlier saying he wants people to wait for the results to come in and that people should not listen to the mainstream media. And people are with him. They're still hopeful that Deal can turn things around tonight. Now, we're going to be hearing in a couple minutes from Amanda Orlando, the campaign manager, who's going to make an announcement in just a mere few minutes. So stay tuned for what she has to say. Back to you.
Katie Delaney at Deal's camp. Now, we saw a few moments ago Boston Mayor Michelle Wu also at Maura Healey's camp. We're going to take a quick look at Arizona. Polls close tonight at 9 p.m. in Arizona. Now, we saw Maura Healey isn't out yet. It looks like we might be on the cusp of history being made. We could be on the brink of the first ever all-female ticket for the gubernatorial office in Massachusetts.
Correct. And you did just touch quickly on Arizona. That's a place where also two female candidates are competing against each other for governor. That could be, as I think we mentioned earlier in the show, the 5th time that a female governor is elected in the state of Arizona, which is a really big deal.
It's the most that's happened in any state in the country, which is truly incredible that it's happened like that. But anyways, thank you, Katie, for the update. Now, Massachusetts was faced with a lot of questions on the ballot, including question 2. Karen Swee has more on that question.
The number 2 ballot question that the Massachusetts residents are going to vote on is about the regulation of dental insurance. If the bill passes, the dental insurance companies will have to spend 83% of the patient's premium on patient care, rather than administrative expenses.
The election day is on November 8th, and it is quickly approaching. The supporters of the bill think that there is not enough transparency on what exactly the patient's money is spent on, and a more strict regulation could better protect the consumer's rights.
The only negative is really to all of the dental insurance companies, because for the first time ever in this state, they're going to have to show the Division of Insurance what they actually spend, their expenses, what they spend on patient care.
There are people that have concerns about the bill, saying that the total premium prices will go higher, and it is unknown whether the money will actually go to better patient care. The opposers also think that the bill fails the patients in many aspects.
When ideas like this came before us, we looked at it kind of with 3 measures, like what would the impact be on cost, what would the impact be on access to care, and what would the impact be on quality of care. And unfortunately, when you really dig into the details on all 3 of those measures, this ballot question fails.
The polling will be closed on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and the result for Election Day votes, early in-person votes, and most mail ballots will be reported on election night.
Reporting for WEBN, I'm Karen Toy.
I'm going to toss it back to Katie, who's at Deal at the Boston Harbor Hotel. She was going to be hearing at the party from Amanda Orlando, Deal's campaign manager, she mentioned before. Let's see if we can see how it's going over there. Katie?
I'll also remind folks that back in 2016, the Associated Press called the presidential election for Hillary Clinton. And I think we all know how that report to us across the state from our grassroots organization as they poll observed and stood outside the polls. Turnout in certain areas of the state, which we believe is favorable to us, was extremely heavy today. And we're going to wait until those vote results come in. The town clerks of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts should be given the option and the right to do their jobs and to count every single vote. And that's what we're going to do. As I stand here right now, we still have 95% of the Commonwealth to vote, which needs to be reported and counted. And so we're going to watch the process until we have a meaningful result to report to you. In the meantime, I hope everyone in this room enjoys the food, drink, and stay tuned for more information. Thank you.
Orlando speaking at Jeff Deal's camp. We're going to take a quick commercial break now, but stick with us for more election night coverage. Don't go anywhere.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, read your lease. No pets allowed. My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
Me and my boy Matt had it good. He had catnip that was off the hook. But one day, he brings a girl home, and she's allergic to cats. Every sneeze was a nail in my coffin. Now I'm in a shelter. It's decent, but they don't even have Wi-Fi.
Welcome back to Election 2022. I'm Faith Pinot. I'm joined tonight by Sam DeCoste. We now go to our correspondent, Aaron Palacios, for the latest.
We're still waiting to hear from Aaron, but it looks like we have history in the making coming in Boston. We might have the first all-female ticket for the gubernatorial office in Massachusetts.
Correct. So this is the first female statewide-led office. It would be Andrea Campbell as Secretary of State. We're still waiting on the results for that, just to be clear. However, the New York Times, NBC, and the Associated Press have called it for Maura Healey. Jeff Deal's still contesting it, and we're waiting to hear back from a portion of voters. I believe we're now going to go to Aaron. Aaron, what do you have for us? Just
Still
kidding.
waiting on Aaron, but that is history in the making. Representation at the highest order for Massachusetts, Maura Healey and running mate Kim Driscoll. They're going to win.
And could you wish for a better handoff from Maura Healey, who is the current Attorney General, to Andrea Campbell, who will be the first woman of color elected to statewide office in the Commonwealth, which is huge for the Bay State.
Not to mention Boston Mayor Michelle Wu is there at Healey's camp, ready to welcome her, ready for her big day to be enshrined as the next governor of Massachusetts.
Correct. And 3 of the 9 senators in the state of Massachusetts are women, one of whom Senator Elizabeth Warren. Massive. She's been campaigning a lot. She played a huge part in campaigning for Michelle Wu. She was actually her professor at Harvard. Major things. Lots of female support in the state of Massachusetts. We now go to Aaron. Aaron, good evening. How are you?
Connecticut polls closed at 8 p.m. Incumbent Jahana Hayes faces Republican challenger George Logan. Hayes made history in 2018 as the first Black woman to serve in Congress. This is a tight race, but updates are coming as ballots are counted. Over half of the votes from North Carolina's 13th district are in. Democrat Wiley Nickel is ahead in the polls currently, although this is subject to change as more ballots are counted. This includes mail-in ballots, which will be counted last and tend to lean towards Democrats. New York voting is ongoing, with polls closing at 9 p.m. tonight. Democrat Maloney is focusing on protecting abortion rights. He is backed by Planned Parenthood. He is also focusing on environmental issues and protecting the Hudson Valley. Republican Lawler plans to reduce the state's tax burden, provide law enforcement with resources needed to do their work, and crafting legislation to improve public safety. Updates on New York are soon to come. That's all I have. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Aaron. Now, in April, the Emerson College Polling Center launched Unlocking the Hispanic Vote, a nationwide research project with Hispanic voters and non-registered citizens. The goal of the project was to better understand the Hispanic attitudes and beliefs. Let's hear from JL Beto to learn more about the project and the results ahead of this midterm election.
I'm currently standing at the nationally ranked Emerson College Polling Center, which is dedicated to accurately reflecting populations through public opinion research. Most recently, the polling center has launched a Hispanic research initiative. This April, the Emerson College Polling Center launched Unlocking the Hispanic Vote, a nationwide Hispanic voter and non-registered citizen research project. Executive Director of Emerson College Polling, Spencer Kimball, spoke about how this project came to life.
So this was an initiative that I kind of dreamed up during the 2020 election as we started to see Hispanic voters shift down in South Florida, down in Texas. And then in the special election in California in 2021, we watched that Hispanic vote shift away from Gavin Newsom back in early of that recall, shift back to him in the last couple of weeks of the recall, and we said, hey, there's something going on with this Hispanic vote.
The Hispanic population continues to grow exponentially, and so is their influence on United States politics. Kimball shared why their studies are important.
We're able to better understand not just Hispanic voters, but those who are not registered to vote and why they're not registered. And because the Hispanic population is growing so quickly, they're becoming more of a force in U.S. politics, and we think it's very important to study.
The Hispanic vote is valuable and one that truly matters. From the Emerson College Polling Center, for WEBN, I'm JL Beto.
Thank you, JL. Now, multiple outlets are reporting that Mara Healey has won.
She talks a lot about how she's supporting volunteers for all of their hard work with this campaign. And we've heard a lot from Ayanna Pressley as well about how this is a historic election, and she's very excited to hear the election results. For WEBN, I'm Peyton Kavanaugh.
Thanks so much, Peyton. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of confusion, but it also sounds like a lot of good things happening, especially, I guess, for the Healey party right now. Like I mentioned before, Associated Press has called the race in favor of Healey Driscoll, as has NBC and the New York Times. We're now going to cut to a commercial. Stay tuned. Again, Faith Pinto and Sam DeCoste with the 2022 election coverage.
Roll over. Can't high five. All right. When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. And your mother. I am totally a hot person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Hey.
Okay. If you love me enough to tolerate my perfect little pets and all their glorious dander, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure I'm the right car seat.
Welcome back. Now we are going to go back to Mara Healey's camp, where Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley is speaking.
The problem with the audio is
So are we talking, when it comes back from commercial, they're going to the fly office?
Thank you.
Inspiring words from Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. That is Maura Healey's camp. We should expect to hear more from Maura Healey's camp very soon. It does appear that she has been elected as the next governor of Massachusetts. Moving on, this week, correspondent Rhiannon Melton explored how the different areas of Boston vote.
Midterm elections are wrapping up, and it looks like the top 4 offices in the state are going to go to Democratic women. Emma Krug, intern at End Citizens United, believes the outcome of Boston midterms will be progressive, alongside many leading experts.
But I feel like a lot of Boston votes pretty hand in hand with each other.
According to David Paleogos, director of political research at Suffolk University, younger and minority populations will likely not participate in this election as much as a presidential election.
Midterm elections tend to be older and whiter, which is why there's a bit of a red wave happening in the country.
In addition to voters being older and whiter, neighborhoods closer to City Hall are expected to be more active in this election as well.
Close to City Hall, I think it's just the proximity to those political buildings really helps amplify that, because you have all the students there who can get politically active, and there's a lot of ward committees.
While experts note that Boston is likely to vote Democratic in this upcoming election, this is not the case for many nearby swing states. Signing off, this is Rhiannon Melton with WEBN Political Pulse.
We're going to take a short break, but stay with us for more exciting election night coverage. Roll over. Can't high five. All right.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique.
And your mother.
I am totally a hot person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Hey.
Okay. If you love me enough to tolerate my perfect little pets and all their glorious dander, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure I'm in the right car seat. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you as you bring our colorful stories to the world.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back to Election 2022 WEBN's live midterm election special. I'm Sam DeCoster with Faith Pinot, giving you analysis and coverage for this year's midterm election. We're also joined by JL Beto for the latest on key Senate races across the nation. What's new, JL?
Thank you, Sam. Closest Senate race in the country, Raphael Warnock is also running for his first full term in the Senate this year. Warnock, leading, becomes Georgia's first black senator when he won a special election runoff in 2020. Warnock's Republican opponent, Herschel Walker, is another controversial GOP candidate running in a toss-up race. Walker has faced allegations about domestic violence, paying for abortions, and questionable business practices. Walker has closed the polling gap with Warnock in recent weeks, in yet another race that could end up being decided by a percentage point or less. As you can see on the screen, Raphael Warnock is leading by a few points. And if neither candidate gets to 50%, a possibility, because there may be a possibility that there will be a runoff election on December 6th. Warnock continues to elude Walker's well-documented history of lying about his credentials. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger announced that, quote, over 2.5 million Georgians cast an in-person or absentee ballot in comparison to the 2018 ballot, which were just about 1.8 million. This Friday alone, over 231,000 Georgians cast an in-person early ballot. That right there is a 6% higher than the final day of early voting for the 2020 presidential election. As of right now, the New York Times is reporting 60% of the vote. Warnock currently leads Walker 51-47, as you saw. That's all for right now. I'll keep you updated as the polls come in.
Thanks for the update, JL. Reproductive rights have been an important issue on voters' mind this election season. Meg Richards has the story.
Following the overturn of Roe v. Wade this summer, abortion has become a hot topic in debates and a determining factor for many voters. Some candidates have made their stance on the issue very clear, whereas others remain vague on the topic.
Republican Governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, who is currently running for re-election, defended Herschel Walker after it was reported that the pro-life candidate for Senate paid for a woman's abortion. Kemp said, quote, "I'm not going to get into people's personal lives." Despite this defense, Kemp still maintains a pro-life platform supporting Georgia's heartbeat law that went into effect in July after the Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. This would ban abortions as soon as a heartbeat is detected in the womb and would allow criminal investigations into women who have had miscarriages and healthcare providers. Vice President Kamala Harris spoke to the impact Roe v. Wade's overturning could have in state legislatures during an event in Massachusetts last Wednesday.
Around our country to literally criminalize healthcare providers, doctors, nurses, healthcare providers, with jail sentences as they're proposing.
With abortion being such a key focus in this year's midterm election season, awareness is being spread throughout the country in many different ways. At the Massachusetts College of Art and Design Art Museum, it's through the Designing Motherhood exhibit. Exhibit attendant Gabrielle Kay spoke to the significance the exhibit has had since the overturning of Roe v. Wade.
One day coming in and hearing that Roe v. Wade was overturned, it was insane. None of us expected that. We were just going about our jobs, and we've been placed in a lucky way with having this exhibit here in such a critical time. But it just so happens it's the perfect timing to have it.
Georgia is among several battleground states where opponents are neck and neck right now. The topic of abortion remains of high importance and could be a determining factor in this swing state. From Boston, I'm Meg Richards with WEBN.
Coming up next, I spoke with Trey Ficillo about his work on the Maura Healey campaign. Stay tuned for WEBN 2022 election special.
Roll over. Can't high five. All right. When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. And your mother. I am totally a hot person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Hey.
Okay. If you love me enough to tolerate my perfect little pets and all their glorious dander, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure I'm in the right car seat. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you as you bring our colorful stories to the world.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back to WEBN. I'm joined tonight by Trey Ficillo. Hi, Trey. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Trey, you are the deputy director of campus engagement for the Maura Healey campaign. Can you just speak a little bit about what it's like being involved in one of the most historic elections that Massachusetts has seen?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been a really great opportunity. I've been involved in political campaigns for a few years now, mostly municipal elections back in my hometown in Marlborough, Massachusetts. But to be working kind of in the midterms this year and following the midterms all across the nation, it's been a lot of fun. Both here at Emerson and then with my job. It's been a great experience and something that I'd really encourage, any college students who are interested in politics to get involved, because at the end of the day, all politics is local politics, in my opinion. So it's been a really great opportunity getting to meet tons of people, especially a lot of people here in the Emerson community who are involved in various campaigns all across the state and even nationally, which has been really, really cool.
Sure. I mean, what a better campus than Emerson to find those people who are eager to get involved. And like you said, every political involvement is local. You call yourself a believer in grassroots organizing, which is something that Maura Healey and Kim Driscoll have really identified with so far in their campaign. How does grassroots campaigning really get voters involved, and how did you get involved with it yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've always been kind of a studier of just political campaigns in general. So in high school, obviously kind of learning about candidates here in the state and candidates in history that have done a really great job going out there and organizing at the grassroots level. So meeting people where they are, knocking on doors, shaking hands, meeting as many constituents as they can. And so for me personally, I've really taken that to heart. The first campaign I really got involved with was a city councilor back in my hometown named Samantha Perlman. She's very, very young, the youngest woman ever elected to the city council in my hometown. So she really inspired me to really get out that vote, to go out there and to meet as many residents as you can. And that's really what she did. She went out, she met every single person she could in our community, which is about 42,000 people. And she really made it, took it upon herself to go out there and to hear what residents wanted, to hear what kind of change they wanted, to hear what was working, and then what we needed to improve upon. So from there, I've really been a big fan of that style of campaigning. It's what I take with me, really any cause. It doesn't necessarily have to be political, but really anything that you're doing, being out there in front of people, being a voice for people, and then also a good listener to people, hear what they have to say. And that's really what's been a big part of my career so far, both in politics, but then also outside of politics.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's something that's proven to be a really big game changer, I think, so far in these midterms. Now, you have a lot of experience, obviously, with campaigning so far, especially for being so young, but with utilizing social media and specifically digital communications. How important has that been so far in the campaigns that you've worked on, and in this specifically in targeting those youth communities?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think I'll go back to kind of like 2019, 2020, the onset of COVID. Everybody was plugged in, everybody was online. And so for me personally, I was one of those people. I was online all the time, whether it be Instagram, Twitter, any sort of social media. And I started to get news. I started to get a lot of content flowing my way. And I think for a lot of campaigns, we realized this is a good opportunity to reach people. And so for me personally, I think I've done a good job of going out there and trying to use social media to my advantage to reach my friends, my families, and even so simple as to remind them, hey, we have an election coming up. Make sure you get out and vote. And so things like that. I personally, I voted early, both in the primaries and in the general election here. So I made sure to go onto Twitter, posted a picture of myself at City Hall doing early voting, just to recommend and to tell people, hey, this is an opportunity the next week and a half to, if you're busy on election day, vote now. And so kind of just getting out that vote, making sure people know, using social media to our advantage to get people out at the polls, both young people and then also people from all walks of life. And so to answer your question in terms of young people and social media, obviously we're all plugged in. We're all on Twitter, we're all on Instagram, we're all on Snapchat. So using those platforms kind of to gauge youth interest is really big, because right now and really throughout all of American history, we've seen that youth voter turnout is pretty low in comparison to other ages. And so for the first time ever in 2019, millennials now make up the biggest chunk of voters in the country. Wow. So they've surpassed baby boomers in the amount of people who are voting. And yet we still see lower turnout rates. And I think a lot of that does have to do with the fact that, a youth voter is somebody between the ages of 18 and 30. So it's somebody who may not have access to a car, may not have access or really time. A lot of these people are in school. A lot of these people have full-time jobs, people who are just entering the workforce. So it's a very difficult time to go and get out the vote. It's a difficult time to volunteer. It's a difficult time to make sure when your upcoming election is. I mean, I know countless people who have missed their local municipal elections because it's not as talked about. It's not on the news as much. It's something that you might see in your local newspaper, but how many youth voters are reading the local newspaper? Sure. So for us, I think social media, at least in that campaign I worked on in 2021 with the city council back in Marlboro, we were able to use social media to garner youth attention, to get kids involved. The bulk of our volunteers were high school students. So people who weren't even able to vote, but we're still out there knocking doors, making phone calls, showing up to events, because they realized how important it was. They saw the direct impact it had on our community. And I think that was really my first exposure into politics and my first exposure into being a movement builder, a change maker, and seeing that actually come to fruition.
Absolutely. And what better way to bring people into the fold than with digital communication? We all have, nearly all of us have a smartphone, and we can all communicate, and engaging those people before they even hit the legal voting age is so critical too, because you're able to get them thinking about what their role in the future of politics could be, just as a voter and as a citizen. You are obviously doing very important work, and engaging youth voters is so critical, especially in these 2022 midterms. How could other students get involved? What sort of things would you recommend? And do you have any advice?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have 4 days to go before the midterms. I have a lot of friends, both here in Massachusetts, but friends who go to school elsewhere who are getting involved in the elections that are closest to them. And so I think that goes back to my point at the beginning. All politics is local politics. So if you are, in an area where you don't know much about the local politics, maybe the statewide politics, learn a little bit more about it. Kind of dip your toe in and see what you can find. And I think that you'll be surprised at the amount of opportunities that come up. Obviously, there are an exponential amount of races going on, over a 4-year time. We have, the big general elections, the big every 4 years we vote for president. Then we have the midterms. And in between that, we have really important municipal elections. So that was my first exposure, was getting involved in a local municipal campaign. And I would definitely recommend that to anybody, especially, with 4 days left before the midterms. Don't overlook 2023. I know we're all looking towards 2024, big presidential election. We're all very excited. I personally am very excited. But I think that 2023 is a great opportunity to get involved, whether it's here in Boston, whether it's in your hometown. There's all sorts of politics going on. So kind of finding that local politics to inspire you is really the big ticket for me. That's what got me going. And I know a lot of my friends, same deal. They worked in local politics. I personally, after that campaign, I then worked in the mayor's office in my hometown last year. So very much a localized start, and then that kind of branches out to opportunities that you wouldn't expect. So definitely. Yeah.
Wow, absolutely. Thank you so much, Trey.
Of course.
Once again, Trey Fucillo, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody stay tuned for more election night coverage.
Thanks to Trey for speaking with us tonight on our midterm election special. We now go live to the Maura Healey campaign at the Fairmont Copley Hotel in Boston, where Lieutenant Governor-elect Kim Driscoll is speaking.
She's the first Black woman elected statewide in our for Kim Driscoll. I've been so lucky to have her as a partner in this campaign, and we're all lucky to have her as our next lieutenant governor. I'm here tonight because of the people across the state who've taken the time to talk with me about their lives and their dreams, what they want and what they need. Your stories have driven everything that I've done. To those who voted for me, and to those who didn't, I want you to know I'll be a governor for everyone. And I'll work with anyone who's up for making a difference in this state. I want you to know I understand what you feel. I understand where you are. And I'm going to do everything in my power to help you. Because we're all in this together. Thank you to my incredible campaign team and all the volunteers who made calls and helped bring this home. Thank you to my friends and family who stood by me and supported me. Especially to my mom, for showing me at an early age what it means to be strong. All the followers out there.
Massachusetts, for more gubernatorial news, we head over to Meg Richards. Meg, what do you have for us?
Hey there, Faith. Well, polls just closed at 9 p.m. in Wisconsin. 14% of the votes are in, with incumbent Democrat Tony Evers leading at 51%. Preliminary polls showed him completely even with Republican challenger Tim Michels, who is vice president of Michels Construction Company. President Biden won in this state by 0.6% of the vote in 2020 election, and preliminary polls showed both candidates at 48% as of last night. With abortion being a hot button topic in this election season, it was a key point in the gubernatorial debate a couple weeks ago. Incumbent Tony Evers vetoed 5 pieces of legislation that would restrict abortion further in the state. Michels, like many other Republican candidates this season, has remained relatively moderate on the issue of abortion following the overturn of Roe v. Wade in June. He said if legislation lands on his desk that makes exceptions in dire situations, he would sign into law abortion restrictions. Another focal point of this election is the issue of immigration, where workers at Michels Construction Company have lobbied and protested for immigration rights. Michels has come out and said that the workers' protests do not reflect his own views on the issue, and he would support stricter immigration reform. When asked, he said he would not support legislation that would allow undocumented individuals to get driver's licenses, a law that currently exists in 17 other U.S. states and was voted on in Massachusetts this election. That's all for the Wisconsin gubernatorial race, where votes are still being counted as the polls closed minutes ago. Back to you at the desk.
Thank you, Meg, for the update. The third question on the Massachusetts ballot asked whether or not the state should increase the amount of alcohol licenses a company can have. Reporter Kelly Croson has more. We're waiting to see where we're going next, but Faith, we have witnessed history. Maura Healey delivered her acceptance speech in Boston. She is the first ever gay female to be governor of Massachusetts.
Correct. It's a huge deal. And like we said before, if you're just joining us, this is the first All-female state executive office. We're going to head back to question 3 now. We have news from Callie Crossan. Callie, what do you have for us?
Massachusetts voters will decide today on a ballot initiative to make changes to alcohol retail licensing, fining, and operations. A yes vote will increase the combined number of licenses an establishment could own from no more than 9 in 2022 to no more than 18 by 2031. It will also prohibit self-checkout of alcohol, change the format to calculate fines, and add out-of-state driver's license as approved identification. Locally, one small business is voting no.
I mean, liquor stores are kind of like the last mom and pop kind of owned businesses, and even then, they're kind of still kind of hanging on. So I know my family and a lot of us are voting no for question 3.
The Massachusetts Package Stores Association is one of the largest recorded supporters of the ballot question. No major donations were made for the opposition.
Yeah, so we have to renew a liquor license every year. So it's about $3,200 to renew a liquor license. Yeah, it used to be like $1,000. Now that was about 10, 15 years ago.
Mass voters will make the choice for these liquor retailers tonight. We will be watching. From Boston, I'm Callie Crossan, WEBN.
Wonderful story, Callie. We now are going to cut to a short commercial break. Make sure to stay tuned for WEBN 2022 midterm election coverage.
Roll over. Can't high five. All right. When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. And your mother. I am totally a hot person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Hey.
Okay. If you love me enough to tolerate my perfect little pets and all their glorious dander, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure I'm in the right car seat. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay? I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you as you bring our colorful stories to the world.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
Live midterm election special. We now go to Aaron Palacios, our House correspondent, for an update on some battleground states.
An update on our battleground states. In New Hampshire, Democrat Chris Pappas is projected to win re-election. This will be his 3rd term serving in the House of Representatives. In North Carolina's 13th district, 61% of the votes are in. Democrat Wiley Nichols is expected to win the district's next representative of House. Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is projected to win re-election in Georgia, defeating Democratic challenger Marcus Flowers. Greene is a notable Trump supporter, embracing the former president's claims that the 2020 election was stolen. While Greene is projected to win, AP has not yet called this race.
Okay, you're going to toss your own package. Toss your package.
And now we go to more on why people are voting in the 2022 midterms. Across the nation, candidates are fighting for a place in Congress. For some state districts, The battle is neck and neck, with only a few votes separating the Democratic and Republican nominees.
Key issues separating the candidates are immigration reform, Second Amendment rights, abortion rights, and where tax money should be allocated. Massachusetts local Stephanie McSherry is looking forward to voting in the midterms.
I would say the biggest issues that I'm voting against are revoking driver's licenses from people who don't have identification.
A few of the battleground states include Connecticut's 5th District, North Carolina's 13th District, New York's 17th District, Pennsylvania's 8th District, and New Hampshire's 1st District. Belle Almendinger is said they are voting because they hope to keep Massachusetts a blue state.
Personally, what I'm looking for is environmental policy. I have a feeling reproductive rights, LGBT rights, all that kind of stuff is pretty solid here.
Friend Ashley Kim feels similarly about their home state of Georgia.
Georgia was blue for the last big election, but yeah, environmental issues are big. Also, reproductive issues. Anything regarding reproductive issues, I think is huge.
No matter which candidate you're voting into Congress this November, it's important to keep these key ideas in mind when heading to the polls.
For WEBN, I'm Aaron Palacios.
Lots of things for voters to be thinking about in this 2022 midterm election cycle. There have been a lot of election and voter rules and laws that have gone into action this year, including in Arizona, a law that allows people to gather and be their own poll watchers. Now, we saw a lot of this in Maricopa County in 2020, especially with people coming to election sites and voting centers armed. That's something we actually haven't seen a lot of in this 2022 midterms. In fact, the Associated Press reported just a few hours ago that there was no election intimidation this year reported, and that there was very small scale problems.
Yeah, and that was definitely a factor. Like in the Georgia governor race specifically, we have Stacey Abrams, who lost very narrowly 4 years ago, but has a rematch against Brian Kemp this year. But in the last 4 years, her impact on the political hemisphere has been so prevalent, encouraging voters to come out, encouraging Georgians to vote for Joe Biden, an otherwise very red state, turning that blue. And now we have another very narrow race and making Georgia a battleground state, which hasn't been the case in the past.
Correct. And she really did a lot of work to capture the youth vote. Youth vote, which is something that Maura Healey's done really well. We're actually going to cut to Jeff Deal very shortly. We're going to check in with him, the opponent of Maura Healey for the gubernatorial race in Massachusetts. Listen, the youth vote was a huge thing in the 2022 midterms. And we're going to see if Katie has anything to say about, how that shook out for the Massachusetts election.
How Georgia voter turnout has been such a massive talking point in the last 4 years, and it's still going to be a talking point here. And with Georgia, we might not know the winner of that race tonight, but there has to be a majority winner in Georgia. And if there's not someone that has a 50% majority, this will go to a runoff and have another vote in 4 weeks from now.
Correct. By the way, they are having technical difficulties at Jeff Deal's campaign party. However, we will be cutting to them very shortly to find out more. Back to what Sam was saying, there was a lot. The Georgia elections are all going to be very close races, and they're going to be ones that we're following closely. We won't have the results this evening. That we know. It could be days, and this could turn to a runoff like we spoke about. Let's talk about another gubernatorial race that's been very important, Nevada. Nevada has been a huge talking point and a really big battleground state for Democrats and Republicans in the 2022 midterms. Specifically, this is an area in particular that we've seen capturing the Hispanic vote to be very important. I know JL spoke a little bit about this on the show this evening.
He did. Now, I believe we're ready to go toss to
JL. All right, we go to JL now. JL, hi, good evening. What do you have for us?
Banter about Rubio.
So, in terms of the results, there's still the
Talk about Rubio.
The Florida Senator Marco Rubio has actually won re-election. The incumbent was up against Democrat U.S. Representative Val Demings, who far outspent her opponent. 83% of districts are currently reporting Rubio's is the first Florida Republican to win 3 terms in the U.S. Senate. His win is more evidence of Florida's increasingly rightward drift.
I'll go back to the Mara Healy camp where Peyton has an update. I think we have technical difficulties. Peyton cannot hear us right now, but we will be returning to the Mara Healy camp very shortly. Working on connecting with Peyton Kavanaugh at the Mara Healy camp.
Healy and Driscoll, and the energy here is absolutely buzzing with excitement. Healy's sending out a message to young girls and young LGBTQ plus individuals everywhere that they can and will be whoever they want to be, and their only limit is their imagination. This has been a historic night for Massachusetts and the country as a whole. From the Driscoll-Healy election party, I'm Peyton Kavanaugh, WEBN.
Now we're tossing back to Katie at Deal's camp for an update over there. Katie, what do you have for us now?
Thank you. Now, we just heard from Rick Green again. He acknowledged Maura Healey's speech, but said that only 11% of the votes have been counted and that people should not yet accept the results that the Associated Press has released. We also heard earlier from campaign manager Amanda Orlando. She says results are still coming in and that we need to be patient. She said that only 89% of the votes have been counted and the rest of them need to be reported still. People were laughing in the crowd at this news, people yelling fake news, and that's illegal to call the election before all of the votes are counted. Orlando compared it to the 2016 election, saying that the Associated Press called the election for Hillary Clinton, and we know how that turned out. Now, Jeff Deal has said in the past that in the 2020 election, it was a fraud. But he now says that he does believe Biden won the election, but that some fraud was involved. Now, we're getting some similar sentiments tonight. People still not accepting the results from the Associated Press, and we'll have to wait and see when the Deal campaign will accept the election results. Back to you at the desk.
Thank you, Katie. Well, that is all the time we have for tonight. Thank you for joining us on Election 2022 by WEBN Political Pulse.
You can check out more on our website, WEBN.TV. I'm Faith Pinot.
And I'm Sam DeCoste. Have a nice night.